That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. Oh, I forgot to turn stuff on. Boo-doo. Yay, lights. Focus. Alright, there we go. I got a Wi-Fi range extender, So hopefully internet connection will not be a problem anymore. Waiting to bug out. Anyway, yeah, I've been having a lot of trouble with that the last few weeks. I want to apologize. I know how annoying that can be. I've been watching some of the streams back, and even if I don't drop out, my audio's been on and off, so really, really unfortunate on that. Got Simeon Scott and Shadow of Batman here in the live comments. Thanks, guys, for coming. And yeah, I'll just go ahead and pretty much get into it. I don't really have a lot of preamble this week. It's been a stressful couple weeks, so working on that. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. Tonight we'll be talking about Justice League Dark, number 7. Superman, number 7. Wonder Woman, number 62. Yeah, 62. And on Trade Talk, we'll be talking about Volume 3, or the equivalent of Volume 3 of the Dan Slott and Mike Allred Silver Surfer run. Anyway, plenty of stuff to get into. Let's see here. Terry says, please put links to Comics Kid 2099's channel, etc. in the description of the vids. Okay, it's doable. Just another thing. Part of the reason I give people usernames so you can just search bar it, but I'll do something. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about Justice League Dark, number 7. This was an interesting one that, that gives you a look into what the Justice League Dark has been dealing with the other kind. And I'm not really going to go into what they are at this point. If you haven't paid attention by now, you're kind of late to the party. But this is an interesting thing that's been kind of showing what the effects the other kind have had on the world at large. But I really like the framing device used for this more than anything, because it starts off at the Hall of Justice in the sub-basement where the Justice League Dark has been meeting, and it's Man-Bat typing away, and he sees you. You startle him, and he begins to tell you the stories of what they've encountered with the other kind. Tales from the other kind! So Man-Bat gets to be like a little bit of a crypt keeper here, and I really like the setup of how he explains this. Imagine finding out the most frightening monster you'd ever conceived is dead, and the look on his face is terror beyond belief. Think about the profound dread and horror that monster faced, knowing that one day you too would face it. That's really cool. I really, really like that as a description of just how bad the other kind is, because what we get here is the Justice League Dark encountering other magic users, mostly magic users, I'll say, and it's primarily dark magic users. We've got Lucifer, Morningstar, has an encounter with the other kind, which he does not survive, so take that, Vertigo. We've got not them. Vampire has an encounter with the other kind that he just runs away from, and it scares him so bad he has to pray. We have this story of, what is it? Frankenstein and the Creature Commandos going after the remnants of an attack from the other kind, and it's so bad that Frankenstein has to tell all the other Creature Commandos to leave the area. They're on a nuclear sub. He's gonna blow the sub, and it's get me a new body ready. In any case, so yeah, that's pretty crazy cool. And then we get another story about Zatara. No, yeah, Zatara? Whatever. Anyway, and he's been, trapped in another dimension and trying to get out, and now there's, a chance to make contact with the outside world, and so the whole issue just shows us, the effects that the other kind are having on the magical world and on the world indeed, and they talk about how the other kind, these attacks seem to be very direct and intended to get people talking about it. And that's causing problems because stories have power in the magical community. If too many people know the story, then they can't just banish these things. And that's really interesting. Then you get this thing of Man-Bat who's been journaling all these, but then he's realized, I don't remember writing this, and I clearly didn't write this because it's all in backward speak, and I wasn't even there for this. And we get this creepy horror reveal of the Upside Down Man, kind of lurking just out of Man-Bat's field of view, and he's been the one writing the stories of the other kind, taking over for Man-Bat in the dark. And it's just a really creepy-ass issue. I particularly like this panel where, we see the Upside-Down Man, and he's, going... He looks like he's contemplating, but the other context for it is he's going. And I think that's really cool, because so much of what Man-Bat's doing is talking to us. So Man-Bat's kind of losing his grip on reality, which is very Lovecraftian, and I really like that. And you've just got this intense feeling of dread and horror that is unimaginable, which is, again, very Lovecraftian. So there's a lot going on with the other kind here that I really, really like. It feels Lovecraftian, but it's not just Cthulhu, which is kind of neat. Though there is a tentacle monster in this, so, that's fun. Anyway, really, really solid issue. I will say I don't think you need to know the full context of the other kind. They do a decent job explaining what they're there for just on context clues. The issue stands pretty damn well on its own. That being said, it doesn't work as well as I think it should if you haven't been keeping up with Justice League Dark and know what the other kind are. So I'd hesitate to say you can pick this up and it's just a cool horror anthology story set in the DC universe. But at the same time, I feel like you're not going to get the full effect if you don't know what's going on in Justice League Dark right now. So take that how you will. Alrighty. Let's go see here. Terry says, Justice League Dark is a good use of horror in comics. I think this issue especially. Yeah, it's very, very good. I've been very impressed with Justice League Dark over the last couple of months. It's been just really, really intense. You can definitely tell that Tynion's got a lot of passion for it. Justice League Dark is the #1 DC book. That's cool. Are we talking sales? There's no way it's sales. You must just mean on your personal. I mean, it's up there for me. It's been really, really good. Let's see here. McPick says, "Hey, what did I miss? Justice League Dark." Smash Time says, "Yeah, everyone's loving JL Dark so far. I hope JL Dark is selling well." I hope so too. I don't really know what the I don't know what the sales are. I tend not to pay too much attention to that stuff. Shadow Batman says, "It's one of those things where it works well on its own, but even better with full context." Yeah, I think so. And Terry says that JL Dark's his personal number one. Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you're liking it. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and go into Superman number 7. What happened, Superboy's Lost Years? Not happy. I'm just not. It just seems like such a poor decision. You couple this with the shit like that's gonna happen with Superboy, Connor Kent being back. I just don't understand this decision. And I think it's pretty damn firm that John Kent's now just 17 years old. And I'm like, damn it! Why? Why is that a good idea? Smash Time says, "I just read Superman number 7. It was such a confusing read. Also, why can't we just grow up with John? We don't need to rush him as a character." Right? Like, that's the appeal, is we've never had a consistent character growth, Superman-powered character from this young before. Like, Clark Kent, it's always, he's a baby. You see him maybe once as a child, and the earliest we ever pick up with him is teenager. After that, it is just straight to Superman. McPick says, "Jor-El is insane. Could have told you that in the Oz Effect. I mean, Superman should know, considering Jor-El want to commit genocide to Earth." Yeah, that's just... I don't. I just don't know what to do about that. It just seems like such a bad decision. So they immediately go to see Lois, who's thinking Superman's dropping by for some afternoon delight, but then he has to like hide John's eyes, and she's like, "Oh no!" and covers up. I don't know. I'm not happy with it. Anyway, they go see Lois. They immediately start launching into his story. And it's pretty much just brings us from where Lois left. Or pretty much exactly just where Lois left, or why she left. She was overwhelmed by space in a number of ways, yada, 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 yada. And as soon as she leaves, it's like Grandpa became insane. And they've got to stop him. And also, John Kent has a scar on his cheek. And he's been trying to get home for 7 years. I'm like, time travel? Just disappointed in that decision. Simeon Scott says, or Terry says, I hate it. Simeon Scott says, "I think we got quite a good bit of mileage out of him as a kid, and making him older has introduced some neat story elements. Also, I know people want to grow up with John, but let's be honest, if they did that, someone would de-age or kill him in 10 years, then we'd be upset about that." I mean, sure, but like, he's 2 years old. You know, it's like he's literally 2 years old. You cannot possibly tell me we've already done everything interesting we could possibly do with this character. And I'm just like, ah. Smash Time says, yeah, the decision to leave with Jor-El never made sense from the start. I was fine to give it, give him some rope. Did not expect this kind of change, and yeah, it's just a bad choice. Shadow Batman says, I really liked how Bendis wrote Jor-El in Man of Steel because he wasn't acting like a villain, but it seems like he went back to being mad scientist villain again. I don't know. John Kent is going to be like Bart Allen when he aged up, kill until he revert back as a kid. Terry says Damian needs a friend his age. I want a new kid Batgirl or a new kid Supergirl to balance it out. I was fine with John. It was so fine. Plus, I'm so eager to see Damian being pissed that he's even taller than him now. Yeah, that could maybe be funny, but I just don't think it'll salvage it. This is really going to make Adventures of Super Sons a lot better. I wonder if it's because Bendis only likes writing teen and adult characters, and that's what he's familiar with. I think you might be onto something, because some of John's writing in this is just not John. It doesn't really feel like him. Oh yeah, space fight. There's little bits of dialogue where I'm like, yeah, that doesn't really sound like John to me, and I'm just like, it's nitpicky, sure, but at the same time, it could just be good. Okay, what's the craziest thing I could eat here? Alien language. I mean, what's the most non-human whatchamacamamama do they serve here? He'll have the tater tots. Oh, I like tater tots. And he's got this whole conversation with Lobo about how he's super boy. You and all your galactic bounty hunter pals can call me Super Boy. I don't know. McPick says Super Sons is no longer unique because of Bendis. Yeah. So Super Sons after the miniseries will just be over with forever. I mean, maybe. It's hard to tell. Maybe Bendis will age him back somehow or other. This will be just an alternate timeline kind of thing or something. I don't know. They pretty firmly established this is definitely John Kent. They pretty much say, yeah, it's no weird kryptonite, it's no Brainiac clone, it's really John Kent. And I'm just like... Smash Time says, yeah, Bendis is going to pull a quick retcon. I hope so. Usually I'm like, let the writer tell their story, let it shake out. But this is just... They brought Bendis on to tell the story he wanted to tell with Superman. With Superman. And they gave him, a lot of free reign to get him in the booth. But just... a decision like that just feels so ill-intentioned. Simeon's just on. He's like, yeah, keep it. I want it. Fuck everybody that enjoys their young Superman character. I want a teenage Superboy. I don't. Retconning it would make it feel even cheaper to me. I don't particularly care. I don't like the decision, and so I'm fine with retconning it. This isn't one more day bad or anything, but it's Oh, let's see here. I mean, I'm fine if you like John to be young. I just don't mind the change. I guess, but I just... yeah, I'm like looking at what Terry says. We have Connor Kent for Teenage Superboy. Yeah, pretty much. Let's see. Even though we already had Teen Superman for a while, whether Clark or Connor, yeah, I don't know. It just annoys me. Ivan Reis does still do really pretty art, even with this situation. I like there's a lot of emotion in the embrace of seeing him again and stuff. That's quite good. So I guess next issue of Superman, we're going to go into what happened to young John and why Grandpa's crazy. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and move on and talk about Wonder Woman number 62. Peace at any cost. So this is the conclusion to the Just War, and yeah, it's pretty damn good. Ares is hell-bent on killing the leader of this country he has incited a revolution against, and just, man, the speeches. I love the speeches. You play at being brave, little man. You think you can hide behind the will of the people, but your people, like all of Prometheus's Git, are ruled by their fear of the dark. And they will choose monsters to lead them because they prefer the evil of the monster to the uncertainty of the darkness. Ares is my problematic fave. That is so good. I love that. Just like all of Prometheus's Git are ruled by their fear of the dark. That is so damn good. I cannot believe I've never heard anyone use that before. I'm not gonna say that G. Willow Wilson made the most brilliant comparison to Prometheus since fucking Oppenheimer. But if she pulled that from somewhere, that is great. God, I love that. All right. So for those that don't know, if you're not up on your Greek mythology, the myth of Prometheus is really interesting. It's used pretty universally as a metaphor for technology, man's ability to create technology. So Prometheus and his brother were charged by Zeus with creating all of the creatures that walk the earth. Prometheus was charged with creating man, and his brother was charged with animals. And his brother used up all the good stuff because apparently there was a supply, but whatever. He used up all the good stuff. He used up nearly all the hair so that, that there were all these furry animals to keep the animals warm, but that didn't leave enough hair for man, so man was cold. He used up all the speed and the strength on the animals, so that left man very weak. The only thing that Prometheus's brother didn't use up was intelligence. And so Prometheus had only that to give to man. The ability to create, the ability to reason. And so he had a bunch of reasoning creatures who were damn near defenseless against the world that his brother the other creatures his brother created in the world. And so Prometheus decided that they needed an edge. So he stole the eternal fire from Mount Olympus and gave it to man, whose ability to reason allowed them to recreate it. So Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to man, and that's like the metaphor for man's ability to create. But to use that story, that we as humans are the get of Prometheus, And that we are so afraid of the dark of the world, the unknown, the fearful symmetry of the world. We're so terrified by that, we will embrace a known evil over unknown possibilities. And I am like, damn, that is good. I so love that shit. And it's just like, it's right at the beginning of the book. Let's see. No, I know it, Ian. I've seen that movie. Get the fuck out of here. You're just trolling me at this point. Shadow Batman says, thought you were talking about the Morrison villain. There's a Morrison villain named Prometheus? That's interesting. I don't remember that character off the top of my head. So anyways, Wonder Woman fights him because though this man may be a tyrant, he is coming to negotiate peace, and that must be allowed to happen instead of just letting Ares kill him. And it's the kind of shit that only happens in comic books, and I absolutely love it. So Wonder Woman's on the ground, Ares has stolen her lasso. Do you think justice is this easy, God of War? You think by killing the Prime Minister, by killing me, you can win this war for the side you have chosen? Folly. You will only condemn these people to another decade of war. Justice is not what makes you feel good. Sometimes justice doesn't benefit you at all. Sometimes you must give that up, which you treasure most, so that someone else may benefit from it. You haven't changed, Ares. You haven't learned. You do not know justice. You know only war. Oh, that is good. The whole arc has been about the Amazons in Rucka's Run captured Ares in order to re-educate and change him to their way. And so in this arc, or at the end of the Rucka Run, it has worked. Ares is no longer hell-bent on evil and the destruction of the world through war. Wilson, instead of just leaving one of Wonder Woman's most important villains in limbo, has done something really interesting. She has taken him and made him aware of what's wrong with him without being aware enough to realize what traps he's falling into. Ares literally has all of the best intentions. He professes the best intentions. But that's the problem. The intentions are nothing. His character, his personality, his what creates him is war. No matter where he goes, war must follow. He is entrapped in war, and that's all he knows and all he can know. And so even though he tries, even though he enters this war, the just war, with the best intentions, he is mired in the consequences of being the god of war. So it's just, whoo! Oh, really, really fantastic story. Anyway, so Wonder Woman and Ares keep going on a fight, but Aphrodite steps in, ceases the conflict. The Prime Minister is able to... hold on. Aphrodite steps in and stops the conflict by whispering something to Ares that we don't know what it is. It's just like in a panel all by itself, and the speech balloon is kept really, really small, and you don't really even get to read it. And the next panel says, is Ares saying, Aphrodite, please take it back. And Aphrodite says, those words, once spoken, cannot be called back. You know that. And that just neutralizes Ares completely. Clearly, that's developing something for the future. What in particular that is, I have literally no idea. So I'm interested to see that go on. Anyway, the Prime Minister is allowed to go in for peace negotiations. Part of the negotiations is that the gods brought this war on, and they must leave these lands. They cannot be involved in these lands, and that includes Wonder Woman. And she's like very, taken aback and surprised by that, and there's open hostility to Wonder Woman. So she agrees, in order for peace to be had, to leave. I particularly love the scene after the fact where Ares is stuck around through the negotiation, and he looks over the war-ravaged landscape and says, is this what peace looks like? And wow! That is so fucking good! Wow! That is a great little spit on this victory of hers. And Wonder Woman, of course, comes in with the wisdom, says, peace will be when this city is rebuilt and its people reconciled. This is merely the end of conflict. And then they have a heart-to-heart. Ares says, what am I meant to do in a time of endless war? Who is to say I am a god of anything? Are even my best intentions so poisonous to mortal men? And so Wonder Woman sends him off to see Athena, and he asks as he leaves, do we part as enemies? And she says, we do not part as friends, but I have no wish to make an enemy out of someone who sincerely wants to change. That is great. That is so Wonder Woman. So, Ares clearly has problems, but he's working on it. He's trying to change. And that's just... And she's the character that'll actually let it happen. She's that character of eternal patience. And it's just... this is so good. Wonder Woman's actually very heartbroken by everything that has transpired. And she needs some time alone. So she goes to that same cliff later alone and looks out at the sea and says to the horizon, Mother, all of the gods of earth and sea and sky, if my people still live, if my homeland is still safe, give me a sign. She closes her eyes, opens them, and is quite dour as she looks at the horizon and the setting sun. It's a really good issue. It's a really, really great first story arc. Really, G. Willow Wilson kind of knocks it out of the park right out the gate. I am incredibly impressed with this first story arc to set up this run. Fingers crossed she stays on this book for years. I would love a 5-year G. Willow Wilson Wonder Woman run if this is the kind of strength she's going to bring just in the first story arc. Absolutely phenomenal story. Sets up stuff without getting too bogged down. Really, really great stuff. Let's see. Shadow Batman says, you don't remember Prometheus? He's in JLA after Rock of Ages, where he's evil Batman, makes plan to be the Justice League, he wears purple helmet. Yes, thank you. I don't know why I didn't think of him. That's dumb human brain. Alrighty. That takes care of the singles. Let's see here. Oh, the panel of Very saying, is this what peace looks like? It's going to be a reaction image for years to come. Yeah, maybe. It could work. Comic book memes don't seem as popular as they used to be, though. Alrighty. time for some Silver Surfer on Trade Talk. Can I just say again how much I love this omnibus? Alrighty. Let me get to where my page is starting. No, this is where they get on the planet. Oh. Yes. Okay. Alright. Let me look up the name of this arc, too. I'm gonna feel silly having to do that, but they don't really give me, like, chapter breaks, I guess, or arc breaks. Silver Surfer Volume 3. Last Days. Okay. Alright, let's go ahead and start Trade Talk. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Trade Talk. We are continuing the Mike Allred and Dan Slott Silver Surfer run. This is the Last Days arc, if you're buying it in regular trades. I am, of course, reading it in the omnibus. So this collects issues 11 to 15, and is probably, really, if you look at it, the most singular story arc we get for quite some time in the series. This has the most to do with continuity, I suppose. The more I think about it and look at where it's going with stuff. It's been a couple days since I read it, so I'm just looking through the images real quick to really give myself a reminder of certain things. Yeah, a lot of this is pretty much right out of the same story. This book kind of got famous for being more of a singular one and done's kind of stuff, but this is more dead on with like a consistent story. Which makes sense since this is kind of like the end of their initial first volume. The next issue is a renumbering, as Marvel's known to do, in 2016. So this is kind of like the final story arc of the first volume, the first half of the book, really. Because it gets to 15 issues and then starts over and it gets to 15 issues again, if I'm remembering correctly. So this starts off with Never After, and this is an incredibly interesting and very, very fascinating use of the format. So, I guess I'll start with just some showing off of panels, because this is how the book starts. You get one page before this of the Never Queen talking about how Norrinrad is caught in the worst trap possible. And then you get this 2-page-ish spread of these panels stacked on top of each other with this loop shape. And the bottom row of panels is actually inverted. And so I'll try to flip through this. I need like a book holder. I'll try to flip through this and show you. That continues. The formatting of the top panel stacked over the bottom panel and inverted continues throughout the entire chapter. Let me camera down a little bit so I can do this a little more comfortably. Always worry about like ripping a page in my beautiful omnibus. We keep this going and going and going for quite a while. Until you get to this page, and then you get this dip. Yeah, there we go. This dip. So if you've only been reading the top panel, now you go down and you get this dip, and then you start reading more, and you're going to continue on the bottom row now, which means you'll have to, which means the top row is now inverted. So you continue to read on the bottom row, and that continues with the formatting for quite a while. Until you get to the end of the bottom row, and then it loops back, and you go all the way back to the beginning of the issue. And it loops that way. You can read it that way ad infinitum. If you only follow the panel structures. Oh, sorry. If you only follow the panel structures of this issue, you will be trapped between those pages until the very end of time. You can literally read that section of the book over and over and over again and never get anywhere. Because when you get to the middle of the chapter, where the paths cross... Oh, I skipped it, didn't I? Yeah. If you get to the middle of the chapter where the paths cross, it just keeps going, and it sends you back to the beginning of the chapter where it loops again. It's really, really clever formatting. Because the characters are caught in a time loop. And so that is just an absolutely brilliant and fantastic way to demonstrate a time loop by trapping your reader in a time loop. It's incredibly non-intuitive in a really impressive way. Because you can be reading the top and then like see the bottom and flip it. So you read the bottom and then you realize, okay, I don't have the context for here, so I need to read just the top. So you go through, you read the whole top, you get to the cross page, and you're like, okay, I guess now I start reading backwards. And it doesn't make any sense. You can just keep going around. So I had to read this issue 3 times before I finally found the right sequence to read the panels in. And then I was still... I decided the way to properly read it was to read through it twice like that. So I read this issue 5 times before I finally caught on. But finally, they break out of the time loop at a certain point here. Things keep going, things keep getting bigger and bigger. And then we get just this fantastic 2-page spread as Nornrad finally figures it all out, figures out how to break out of the time loop. And then they find paradise. He's been searching for a place for these refugees to live, trying to find a new planet for them, and they've had failure after failure after failure in this time loop. He breaks out of the time loop, and they find a suitable planet immediately. And then the next issue has a bit of a time skip, because it looked like he and Dawn were going to be over. They're done because he'd not told her about this whole thing with him being the Herald of Galactus. It looked like their relationship is over, and he's just going to take her home now. But then there's this time skip, and we realize Norrin and Dawn have been living together on this planet with all these refugees. And everything on this planet is perfect. Everything on this planet is just absolutely idyllic. For everyone, not just like, oh yeah, we can go fishing. Like there's a woman from more of like a warrior hunter culture, and she slays a monstrous boar that was going to kill them all, just like she has with the last 12. Protecting her village and all that stuff. And then Dawn and Norrin begin to get closer. Everything seems like it's fine. And then we begin to realize, yeah, something's really off with this planet. Especially once Norrin starts talking to his wife. From his old life. And Dawn to her mother, who is dead. You begin to get the sense that, yeah, something's really up with this. and they realize the planet is called Euphoria. The planet is a living being who just wanted to give everyone everything they could ever want. And so Norrin has to use the power cosmic to isolate the planet's effects from the people to see what it's trying to gain, what it's trying to use to trick them. And the planet says, no, listen, if you really want to leave, you can, but I'm just trying to make everything perfect for you. And so a couple of the refugees leave, but most of them don't. And it's at that point that Norrin goes, okay, Dawn, you and I have to go, though. And so they're heading off into space, and he's like, so after everything that we experienced, after we almost kissed and really entered into a relationship on that planet, what do you really feel for me? And she says, thank you for not kissing me. And he's like, oh. She's like, no, I mean, I shouldn't kiss you because the whole planet wants me to. I should kiss you because I want to. And that's where we get it. They kiss in space because their relationship has been repaired. Absolutely touching story. Really, really impressed with that. I thought that was a very natural place to take things in their relationship, where they did spend time together dealing with that in a different way. Shadow of Batman in the live comments says, I really dig the art from what you're showing. Cannot tell you enough, while we got a quick break here, how much I adore Mike Allred's art. I say the same thing over and over again every time I talk about Mike Allred's art, so apologize to anyone who's watching this after the fact that's already seen me talk about this a number of times. But I love how Mike Allred's art is absolutely timeless. Everything here looks like it could have come out in the 60s, but like great for the 60s. It's great for now, it's great for the 60s, it's great for every decade in between. This is timeless, iconic style comic book art. One of the best artists working in the industry, in my opinion. Alrighty. Then they go on an adventure, and suddenly something terrible happens, and the Never Queen warns them that they must run, Norrin Rad, run, as the Never Queen seems to be dying, and they rush off and everything. And oddly enough, this is actually a tie-in to an event that was going on at Marvel at the time. They rush through space so fast because everything is ending. The present and the future are ending, and all that's left is the past. So they're just rushing through time and space toward the past, trying to survive. And Norrin at one point says, Dawn, don't look behind us. And she's like, why not? And then sees the Earth being destroyed. She's like, no! Anyway, so then as they're rushing, Dawn sees another surfer, another Dawn Greenwood, and she tells them, hey, you gotta go that way. And they go, and there's a rip in the universe, and they get through it. And the future Dawn looks at her future Norrin and says, Norrin, you had to tell her that, Dawn. If you hadn't, she would have let go and tumbled off into the time stream, lost forever. But I told her everything be okay. Always hated lying, even to myself. So it's just like, ooh, foreshadowing. And then we're just in this void of white out of the universe space. And then we get a look at Eternity, who's the physical embodiment of all the Marvel Universe. And they turn to try to talk to him and find out what's happened. And he turns and says, there is no eternity. Only the will of doom. And this is actually a tie-in to an event that was going on at Marvel at the time, which is that Doctor Doom had taken over and recreated the universe to just one planet and one moon. And I remember reading shit from that period, and I was just like, this is dumb. I hate, so hate, like 99% of Marvel events. But it's okay, because this doesn't really tie in with that. It's just a great excuse to tell a really interesting story. So, while they're in this void, they meet Glorian, the maker of miracles, and the lowly Zed, and their master, the Shaper of Worlds, who's like this giant cosmic being outside of reality. And it's up to Norrin and Dawn to recreate the universe. I love Dawn. Alright, let's do this. Let's bring everything in the universe back. She's just immediately ready because she was so blown away by the tragedy. And so Dawn sets about recreating the Earth, and Norrin and Glorian, set about recreating the rest of the universe because Norrin's cosmic power is needed to do it. And so they go through trying to recreate the universe, and Norrin's being very intentional to try to recreate things as they were, not play God more than he is required to. Some absolutely beautiful art. I love that Glorian rides a fucking rainbow or leaves a rainbow trail behind him. That's so cool. Again, timeless kind of comic book art. And then, unfortunately, Dawn isn't very good at recreating the Earth because she didn't see much of it, so she's only recreating what she saw in postcards. And in fact, like, London is flat, which is certainly unfortunate. And then Norrin has the problem of having to recreate Galactus, and he decides that he just cannot do it, and decides to destroy Galactus. And then he's like, no, wait, I can bring back all the planets I destroyed. And so he goes about doing that too. Meanwhile, Dawn is in need of assistance in recreating Earth since she doesn't know enough about it. So she summons the Surfer, recreating him while he's off recreating the universe. This causes the Shaper of the Worlds great distress, and begins a whole lot of problems. The Shaper of the Worlds comes and says, the shape of every world is wrong. You have made errors, duplications, and anomalies. These must be dealt with if your new universe is to survive. Hurry. It's like Norrin had created Euphoria, which was the world they were just on, and it had been populated with all the people from all the planets that Norrin heralded for Galactus. But then he decided to recreate their worlds, and so now they're on those worlds as well. And it's like, well, shit. That's a contradiction. They can't be both. You can't have both. And Dawn is horrendously tempted to recreate her mother and all this stuff. But now there are two surfers. There's all kinds of wrong going on. And it's at this point that Glorian... why can't I remember this dude's name? I just said it. Glorian? Goldian? It's like a G name of some sort. Can't remember names today. I'm having trouble. Glorian. Thank you. Glorian decides that he's tired of being the servant of the Shaper of Worlds. Now that the Shaper of Worlds is weak from shaping all these worlds through Silver Surfer and Dawn, Glorian decides to attack and take the mantle, take the power. But all he needs to cement this, to be the new Eternity, is for Dawn to settle the last contradiction, which is these two Silver Surfers existing. But she ultimately doesn't do that, or when she does, it's too late for Glorian's pleasure, as she reaches for the what-ifs, the possibilities that the Never Queen left her, and it's through that they're able to recreate the original universe. So they have to choose, recreate the standard eternity, overthrowing Doom, or accept Glorian's new universe. And ultimately they choose the original universe, even though they both lose something very valuable in doing so, very personally valuable to them. So that destroys Glorian. It's so weirdly cosmic. And then the Surfer and Dawn are off back into eternity to adventure. She says to Norrin, well, come on, don't you want to see new stars? Yes, with you. We really have no idea where we're going, do we? I do. Anywhere and everywhere. Hang on. Absolutely beautiful artwork by Mike Allred for the end of that first initial volume of the series. Just blows you away with how good it is. It has no right to be that good. He has no right to put so many other comic book artists to shame with something that damn good, but he does it. Absolutely fantastic series. Love it even more as it goes on. For something that continuity heavy, where it's technically this that saves the universe from Doctor Doom, it doesn't feel like the tie-in that it technically is. It just feels so natural and so weird as part of the craziness of this universe, the scale of this book. Just an absolutely fantastic series. Love every second of it. Great conclusion of the first volume. Can't wait to read more. Got about half left. So we will be continuing on with that. Everyone, thanks very much for watching this episode of Trade Talk, and thank you as well if you stuck around through comic reviews. Anyway, until next time, bye!